Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. You are listening to the Doc Owen Show. This is Richard Doc Owen. I am joined in the Hilltop Studios by...
I'm a surefire.
And...
Uncle Bachi.
Full house, ready to rock and roll. The name of tonight's show is More on Cue and What About You? So we'll just...
You're a poet and didn't even know.
We'll just take it from there.
Yep.
We are all over the social media for the time being. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and others as Doc Owen Show. DOCOWENSHOW. We have a budding blog, and the blog is about to add a /store, which will be focused on what we're calling the 3 Ps, about being prepared, being practical, and being a patriot. So basically we're going to kind of provide a single point of entry to find those sorts of products and services having to do with the 3 Ps. That'll be coming up in Q1 of 2019. We have a free app for both the Apple and Android device. If you go to your respective store, you can download at no charge the Doc Owen Show app. Listen to us live, listen to our podcast at your leisure, and also get access to, the banks of shows that we've done over the last 6 years. Tonight's show is numbered Y6, which means we're in year 6, and it is show 12A. Because I don't like the number 13, so we will go from 12 to 12A directly to 14. Nothing I can do about today's date, but it's not a Friday, so no big deal. I think we're going to have a good show for you tonight. We've got a lot to cover. There's something in the news that I got just before we came on that you listeners will have to remind me to bring it up. And I have something to add to Uncle Bachi's This Day in History. So we always begin the show in a very traditional manner, and that is Ms. Surefire gives us an inspirational quote. Uncle Bachi tells us something about this day in history, and then I finish it out with a leadership quote or something, some sort of a biblical quote sometimes that has to do with God and country. So, Ms. Surefire, take it away.
And tonight's quote comes from a site I've quoted from in the past, and that's brainyquote.com.
There you go.
BRAINYQUOTE.com.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And tonight's quote comes from a lady that I would say most of us Americans grew up with on the tube there. Was Carol Burnett.
Yep.
Good old Carol.
American actress and comedian. She was born in our hometown here in San Antonio.
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah. She's a native San Antonian.
She was here till she was age 7. And now the city has taken her house quite a few years back, and they moved it, and they're actually repurposing it to help the less fortunate in San Antonio become better people, providing them services.
By
Good for
teaching
her,
them how
good
to
for them.
become comedians?
Maybe,
No.
yeah, that'd be good. So her
Nothing
quote,
wrong with that, actually.
That's true. That's true. Everybody needs a good laugh
There
every
you
once
go.
in a while. Yep.
Yep. You can't always rely on the government for
That's true. That's true. And tonight's quote from her is, "We don't stop going to school when we graduate.
Nice.
We're always learning."
That's right.
Absolutely true.
That's true.
Good for her.
Absolutely.
I like it.
I do too. That's definitely a good one.
Today in history, Bucky?
Okay, I don't have anything for today, but yesterday in 1787, Pennsylvania ratified the Constitution. And on this Saturday...
Well, why couldn't they have waited until today?
I don't know.
Just somebody else did.
Yeah, I
Thursday show.
Man, oh man, there's just no respect.
No, I know.
No.
In 1791, on Saturday, the Bill of Rights became ratified.
Okay. So we've gracefully sandwiched our show between two major events.
Yes, we have.
Okay.
But you said you had something to add.
I do.
Good.
May I?
You may.
On this date, in 1951, we were introduced to a gentleman
6 years old
by the name of Red Skelton.
Oh, yes.
On that amazing little box down in the other end of the living room called a television.
Yeah.
That's funny. I brought a TV too.
Yeah. So we're going to honor that by hearing Mr. Skelton's version of the Pledge of Allegiance tonight.
There you go.
So
classic.
Tell you what the 50s are all about. Right? Not right this minute.
Oh.
But
Okay.
sooner or later.
Gotcha.
Okay. Okay, Uncle Bocce, you want to walk us through a little bit of history, or you want me to do? Well, you do that, and then I'll do my headline.
All righty.
Okay.
Sure. Tonight we're talking about Warren G. Harding.
Okay, that's enough. Now, no, I'm just joking.
Actually, it is enough.
Well, you kind of queued that up when we had our, first annual celebration of the winner of the Doc Owen Show Loyal Listener Award.
Oh, yeah.
On Monday, you queued up that response out of
Absolutely.
Me, so tell us about.
Okay, so
Warren
he was number 29, and he held office from 1923 to 1925. Or excuse me, from November 2nd. No, I was right. Okay,
23 to 2 years.
Yeah, and you'll see why in a minute.
I hope so.
Okay. His tenure is considered by many historians as one of the most scandal-plagued presidencies.
Harding?
Harding.
Wow.
Yes, I was surprised too. But
Democrat or Republican?
No, he's a Republican.
Really?
He's a Republican, but
man, am I glad we switched sides.
Well, okay. There's a lot of. I want you to be tuned into the parallels between what I'm going to say tonight, and what's going on with Donald Trump, right now. It's amazing.
Scary.
Okay. What happened was there was this huge scandal called the Teapot Dome scandal.
Yeah, I remember.
Okay. Teapot Dome was an oil reserve in Wyoming that was set up by the Navy.
Yep.
Well, what his Interior Secretary thought he could make a lot of money. So what he did is he arranged to take it away from the Navy and give it to the Interior Department. And since he was a Secretary of Interior, he decided he was going to sell it
and get a commission
and get a lot of money. Yeah, exactly. And not only did that take him down, his Interior Secretary, but it took down his Attorney General too. Wow. Attorney General, yeah. So now the reason he only had 2 years because he died suddenly of a heart attack while on August 2nd, 1923, while he was visiting in San Francisco. Anybody who goes to San Francisco today will understand why.
Yes.
You're going to have a heart attack.
Yeah. That's true.
When you see that beautiful city turn to crap, literally.
Yeah.
So, and now remember, we've had quite a long term. They say it's a generation. I don't think it's quite a generation of progressive insurgency within the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Remember that, folks. Even though Woodrow Wilson was one of the biggest progressives we ever had, it was the Republican Party who got this going.
Right.
Okay, and so what they're saying is that in 1920, the Republican Party's reverting back to a conservative stance. Well,
I'm confused.
I don't see where the conservatism is in the Republican Party. I just don't see it.
Today?
Huh?
Today, you mean?
But, no. Back then.
Oh, okay.
Back then, with Warren G. Harding specifically, since he
Okay.
was the one who was pushing this.
Oh, okay.
So I think he was quite progressive as well. So he was Senator Warren G. Harding from Ohio, and he picked Calvin Coolidge, who was governor of Massachusetts, for his running mate. Okay?
No way he could have been a conservative.
The Democrat, well, Calvin Coolidge, well, you'll see.
Massachusetts?
Yeah, I know, right? But Massachusetts was different back then. Yeah. Back then, they even had the color state thing. They had it backwards. Red was Democrat and blue was Republican. Go figure that out. Anyway. So now you're going to hear a name that we're going to get into later. The Democratic Party, not this particular person, they nominated James M. Cox. He was the governor of Ohio. And Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was the Assistant Secretary of the Navy in the Wilson administration, as vice president. Okay? The Democratic chances were weakened because of Woodrow Wilson. He suffered a stroke, and he was unable to get the League of Nations
Right.
passed. So their prospects were not very high. So what happened was Warren Harding and Calvin Coolidge, they won over 60% of the popular vote and over 76% of the electoral vote.
Slam dunk.
Yeah, it really was. So it was unquestionable.
Any unruly pushback after they took office?
No, none that I could actually find, because I do look for that.
Right.
But there was not a whole lot of. I mean,
Okay.
how much pushback can
It's
you
okay.
get?
Well, I know.
You
It's
know,
okay.
with this,
I
you
just
know-
want to know. I just want to,
Yeah.
that's what we're.
Yeah. Well, the pushback actually came in through the Socialist Party, the Farmer Labor Party, and the Prohibition Party.
Okay.
Those were definite pushbacks.
So there
if
was
you
a lot
will.
of splinters.
There was a lot, right?
Wow.
There was a lot. And the funny thing is, the Socialist, Eugene Debs, again,
Yeah.
same guy.
Right.
He was in prison at the time, serving a 10-year sentence during the election, and he still got 914,000 votes.
Well, that's because the machines were rigged.
I guess. I don't know. So there was no changes to the cabinet. As far as the courts are concerned, he got to nominate 52 judges and to the federal courts. 4 of them were nominated to the Supreme Court, including our former president, William Howard Taft, as
Yeah.
Chief Justice,
Nice.
which is what Taft always wanted.
That's what he wanted to do anyway.
Yeah, he didn't really want to be president. He wanted to be, and so he got that.
Can't blame him.
Yeah.
Far more job security as a Supreme Court justice.
Yeah. So Harding's time in office,
Yeah.
tremendous amount of scandals, major scandals. Teapot
Interesting.
Dome, Albert Fall, the Secretary of the Interior, of course, $308,000
But these were
and some cattle.
you referred to what's going on with Trump. These were real scandals.
These were real scandals.
Okay.
Yeah.
These were
the connection. Right.
manufactured,
Yes.
questionably
Thank you.
honest.
Thank-
I mean, right.
Yeah, thank you for making that clear, because
were real.
I might have
And
missed
going on within government, within the various departments of government.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to do that, then you're going to compare to Obama and the IRS and the
Yeah.
and all of the abuse of power.
So,
Okay.
so
Okay.
there was a lot of bribery, fraud, conspiracy going on.
Gee, that's great.
Unfortunately, Harding died before any of his scandals could have an effect on his presidency.
There you go.
So he got out of it.
The hard way.
Harding did not support America joining the League of Nations, so that was gone. They did not sign the Treaty of Paris, which ended World War I, but later they did make have an official ending, the state war between Germany and America. So they did get that far.
Okay.
And do I have any more time? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's more about you got any more information.
Yeah. He forwarded the idea of open door policy with China. Now, this is where I'm saying we're still having trade problems today with China.
Of course.
Even back then. And China was a mess back then.
Do you know why that always exists and always will exist?
Why?
Because we read from left to right, and they read from right to left.
There you go.
There's just...
Yep.
Something gets lost in the translation.
Yeah.
Every time.
It sure does. Now, unlike Wilson, Harding favored and spoke out against civil rights, and he actually pardoned Eugene V. Debs. He was for fair treatment of African Americans. He spoke out against lynchings, and he ordered desegregation of the White House and the District of Columbia. Whereas, remember, Wilson was all for segregation,
right,
even in the military. So this is at least some pushback from this guy, just like, Trump is pushing back on stuff. So, let's see, what else? Yeah, there were a number of treaties that I won't go into them, but he signed some very major treaties with the different powers, and
different global powers.
Mostly, Japan and France and
trade agreements,
Britain.
Or
no, these were just treaties. For instance, they wanted to stop the production of battleships for 10 years.
So it had more to do with war production.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Okay. And of course, I already mentioned the scandals. He was scandal fraught,
which would have been hot at the time due to World War One. Right.
The other big scandal, was that he was definitely a ladies' man. And this is a Republican. He had at least 2 extramarital affairs while he was married, and with one of those women, he actually had a daughter.
You can't have an extramarital affair unless you're married.
Well, he is married. He was married. What are you talking about? I made a double. Okay. See, guys? You know what I got to put up with? So anyway, just to finish off here, he definitely was one of the worst presidents that we've had. And here's an interesting quote where I think get back to what Trump is trying to do. Okay, he said there is no relationship here between church and state. Religious liberty has its unalterable place along with civil and human liberty. In the very foundation of the Republic, I hold it, that is religious intolerance, to be a menace to the very liberties which we boast and cherish. And Trump kind of like mirrors that too.
Yeah.
He so.
Okay.
Yeah. And he also said that less government in business and more government, and more business in government.
Right.
There's definitely a Trumpism there.
Well, sure.
You see that? Okay.
Sure.
All righty.
Okay.
I think that'll be it for tonight.
Okay. Who's next? What do we have to look forward to? What do we need to do our homework on so we can?
Well, since Warren G. Harding died,
Yes.
Calvin Coolidge
took over.
He came and he did go on to run for one more term.
And win. And win.
Yeah.
Right. In other words, he had his own. He's like Gerald Ford.
Yeah.
I mean, he took over and then he won.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, folks. This is Uncle Baci, UNCLEBACI at DocOwenShow.com. And if you disagree with anything that I've said tonight,
keep it to yourself.
Keep it to yourself.
It's Christmas time.
It's Christmas. Give me a break. Okay.
Thank you, Uncle Baci.
Bye.
Good job, Baci. When I got so excited about Red Skelton, I forgot that I had something set aside to read in terms of.
Yeah.
Actually, it was.
Can't deprive us of that.
Well, I don't very often pay it's not really paying homage, but I don't very often bring this former president, up in a favorable light.
Oh, okay.
So, but I read this. This is a section in my little book, God Bless America, that are prayers of the presidents. You know, the various presidents, and this one is from Jimmy Carter.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. That's
Listen to this.
Yeah.
With respect to what he has done after the presidency.
He's better after
All
than
right.
before.
Mr. Carter prayed, I would like to have my frequent prayer answered that God let my life be meaningful in the enhancement of his kingdom, and that my life might be meaningful in the enhancement of the lives of my fellow human beings.
Yeah.
I will have to give
Very much.
You have to give the man his due, and say that he has lived out that prayer. He has stayed true to that, no matter his politics, no matter his capabilities as a president. You know, his Habitats for Humanity and those sorts of things that he's done around the world have had a major positive impact.
Sure has.
So
And that's really his legacy, you know.
that is his legacy.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. So since we brought up Mr. Skelton, Red Skelton, the vast majority of our audience doesn't have a clue who that is, probably, but he had a variety show and he was a comedian, but also, and if you stop and think about it, and I was taught this a long time ago, and it's very true. Number one, if you want to really know what's going on in the country, read the funny papers. And number two, if most comedians, particularly the clean ones, are actually very, very smart, and they will point out things about society in a comedic way that makes it easier for the audience to sort of stomach.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? But they're really, there's some very bright guys as comedians, and they're poking fun at themselves and all the rest of us.
Yeah.
But they're making a point at the same time. They're just doing it with a bit of a comedic twist to it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You sure that our audience understands funny papers? I haven't heard that said in a long time. Do they still have them? I don't know.
I don't
know.
You know.
Okay.
I also read today that the Boy Scouts, ever since they decided they did two things. They allowed the Glibbit community to influence them, and opened it up to gays, etc. And then they let the girls in and changed their name from Boy Scouts to Scouts. Okay. Well, first of all, the Girl Scouts sued them, big suit, and others have done the same thing. The Boy Scouts have now filed for bankruptcy. They have lost 2/3 of their membership.
Sure. Bad decisions.
Bad decisions.
Very bad decisions.
Think about it, folks.
Yep.
Boy Scouts of America,
Right?
bankrupt. 2/3 of the Scouts said,
It's a shame.
"No, thank you." Well, it's a shame because of the loss. Because of the loss of the. Look at that top thing on our prepared. Be prepared. That was a Scout motto. Be prepared, be practical, and
That's
be
right.
a patriot. But
That's
be
right.
prepared came straight from the Boy Scouts of America when I was growing up.
Exactly.
And, we knew it, we lived it, we felt it. It permeated, and same thing was true, I'm sure, with the Girl Scouts and the Brownies and the yada yada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we continue to give progressives the power, every institution now. So this is another one that's going to fall.
Okay.
The Boy Scouts, right?
Yeah.
Every great institution
Yeah.
of Americanism.
But that's by design.
Boom.
Well,
That's what I'm trying to make.
That's by design.
Exactly.
It's so that we don't have that
Exactly.
Culture anymore.
that core
Right.
culture of what it is to be an American.
That's right.
Basically of what it is that Donald Trump is so proud of.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's so half of the country doesn't get what he's proud of.
Yeah.
Not only that, they're not proud of it because for that very reason. They don't understand.
That's right.
So we'll come back to that.
Thank you.
Let's hear. I'm, if you will, can you cue up Mr. Skelton? We'll open the curtains, and here is Mr. Red Skelton doing the Pledge of Allegiance to America.
I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. And I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher. Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell. And he says, he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester. And it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity, allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose, and that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
If that doesn't bring tears to your eyes, you need to listen to the podcast again, because it's a sad event that we have lost that level of understanding and patriotism that you just heard.
Yep.
And that a lot of us grew up with. Before I dive into what it's about, I do have this latest bulletin that I got
right.
off of the internet just
like bulletins.
before showtime. Okay? Wait a minute. Okay, well, it's dated December 31st, 1969.
Uh-oh.
WTF. Anyway.
I was 2.
OMG.
It says 12/13/2018. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. In a frightening, it talks about U.S. receives a wave of bomb threats. All right. And it seems that there's been a frightening series of events. Numerous institutions throughout the United States have found email threats in their inboxes, spurring heightened security and evacuations. They've gotten this at the University of Washington, Thurston County Courthouse in Olympia, Washington, Park Record Newspaper in Park City, Utah, the Riverside Sheriff's Office in California, the Police Department in San Francisco, the Police Department in Chicago, and the Vancouver Police Department up in Canada. I happen to know for a fact the origin of this activity. It's a gang on the internet. They're 6 years old, and they've been told they're not getting a bicycle for Christmas. And they're acting out.
Crazy.
I like your analysis. That's good.
It might as well be true.
A point well made, though.
Yeah.
We don't get what we want.
There you go. $50,000 is what the immigrants in Tijuana are asking for per person to go back to their home country. For $50,000, they could buy their home country.
That's
Probably
right.
so. That's what it's worth. Yep.
Yeah.
So let's talk about another thing that I picked up over the last couple of days, and I've forgotten where it was. But I remember exactly where it was. I was watching. You're familiar with a guy by the name of Trey Gowdy?
Oh, yeah.
Who is a former prosecutor and just like a rock star when it comes to interrogating people in House committee environments, right? Mm-hmm. He was delivering a commencement address at Liberty University to a bunch of young people, and graduates or whatever, and paying homage to the fact that and surveys are beginning to show the same thing. The young people of today, all of the problems that exist are our fault, the fault of my generation. Okay? Mm-hmm. And we just need to shut up and go home because everything that's wrong is because of us. I would remind you of one thing, young folks. You're talking to the generation that brought us close to the Vietnam War through our protest and through our pushback on the government. Mm-hmm. And to this day, I haven't seen you do sugar honey iced tea about anything like that. Mm-hmm. To quote some other folks on the air.
Yeah.
Bull sugar. So, when you want to step up and quit complaining and step up and do something to help turn the country in the correct direction, I'm not going to say right, because then you're going to think, right and left, yada, yada, yada. No. When you want to get this country back on the correct path, which was just explained to you on this show by Red Skelton, this country is about God and country and the other fella first and doing the right thing. And it's not about any of us as individuals. It's like Q, the whole Q movement. Their slogan is, where we go one, we go all. And that's what it means. So, my apologies if you think we've led you down the wrong path. The only thing that we've done is allow communist, socialist mushheads to take over the education system, so you don't have a clue what we're talking about.
That's right.
You really don't. Talking to the young people. But Mr. Gowdy also said you're not going to find any you're not going to be able to persuade people if you make fun of them or if you call them names or if you,
right.
The way to persuade is to deal with facts, which is what the doc. I'll admit I can blow up every once in a while. I have my tantrums, but only when I've been trying to explain the facts. And it's not doing any good, and it gets real frustrating. At that point, I break down. I lose it, which Gowdy's much better at not doing. Which is why he's where he is, and I'm where I am.
Oh, you're doing just fine.
So, but the point of all of that, before we get into this Q thing, was mostly the second half of the title of the show. And what about you? We all got an obligation and an opportunity to clean this mess up. There's nobody in any age group that thinks everything's okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
There's nobody out there saying it's all right, folks. Let's just keep going the way we're going. It's a fight to the finish. He also reminded us, as did Mr. Skelton, this is the United States of America. And so, and part of that unity is the freedom to say and the liberty to express ourselves. But it can't be done. It's never been correct to do it at someone else's expense.
Absolutely not.
You express yourself in an effort to do what Jimmy Carter has done since he left, to raise the entirety of humanity. We had a saying in the Navy, and that is, a rising tide raises all boats. So when things are going up, if you've ever been on the ocean somewhere in a marina, and the tide's coming in, if you look around, all the boats are actually coming up. And when it's going out, they all go down. So a rising tide. So it's about the unity of the country and all pulling in the same direction. Whether you agree 100% with the methodology or not, that's different. You still have to agree on the direction of the country. And I don't think we have that right now. I think there's a major part of this country that sincerely, in their souls, does not like who we are. And yet they're here.
Yeah, primarily because they've been taught that.
Well,
right?
Maybe, but no, there's leadership that doesn't like who we are. There's leadership.
They're the ones that are doing the teaching.
They've been trying to bring down this country since World War II.
Yeah.
We're not perfect.
Nope.
No one is. No country is. But we still do a lot of good in the world. We really do. So, and I don't think they're perfect either. I never have. Ever since Vietnam. Never have. But we still, between the pluses and the minuses, I think there's more pluses. Right now, it appears to me to be getting a little bit out of balance. So, what have you learned about Q since we talked last? Anything? No.
I was spending too much time on Harding.
On Harding? Okay.
I spend too much time on family.
I got it. It's that time of year.
Yep.
Good answer. Both sides. I want to introduce you to a thing. I don't think I brought it up last week on the show. I know we talked about this QAnon phenomenon that's going on. I found a website called QMAP, QMAP, Michael Apple Paul, QMAP.pub, P-U-B like public. And it is a website that displays in a graphic manner all of Q's posts in chronological order.
Oh, see, when you said .pub, I was thinking
Public.
like, that's not where my mind went.
I know where it was. I know where, I know.
Okay, go ahead.
You were looking for someplace they throw darts. So it's
With Dennis Beard.
Yeah, QMAP.pub.
Okay.
And if you go there, there's a thing up across the menus across the top where you can click, and it's all the tweets, all the drops, as they call them, that have come out of Q. All right. And if you click on this little thing up on top, you can click on President. Okay. And then it will add Trump's tweets. And you'll see them in chronological order. Q will tweet 2 or 3 from Trump. Q will tweet, and you can start to see a pattern. Okay? Mm-hmm. Q had just to set your mind at ease based on some things we talked about last week having to do with Q, and that is Q did get this, Q&A today.
Wow.
Where he interacted with what are called the Anons. And the Anons are people like me. We're anonymous. We're nothing. All right? But we're followers, or we're paying attention to Q, Anon. So the Anons is who his following is. You follow me? People
Yeah.
that are not worshiper followers, followers of the data points, the tweets. Right, following somebody on Twitter. So he did a Q&A with the Anons. One of the things that came up with, and they were straight questions and straight answers. Is JFK still alive? No. Q. That was the answer. Okay? JFK Jr. Sorry. Is JFK Jr. still alive? No. Q. All right? And this Vincent Fusca, no. And then another one that came up, there was a theory out there that Seth Rich, remember the guy that turned over all the information to WikiLeaks about the Democratic, what was going on at Democratic headquarters, and got shot, got Clintonized. Arkansas, that's what they call it. So, was Seth Rich still alive? And the answer is no. Q. And there were other things that they were asking him to try to solidify. And one of the questions had to do with the note that was inserted in the deep state members' funeral proceedings at H.W. Bush's funeral. If you noticed in the clips that came out after, when a lot of the players that are suspected or tagged with being deep state members, when they opened up their outline or whatever it's called of the funeral, the sequence of their menu, their program, something fell out. And it was a notice that said that said something to them about the counter, signed Q. So yes, wherever they're coming from, Q is, they inserted these things into the programs of the deep state at that funeral, just to let them know we're watching and we intend to counter this, because they don't believe that this H.W. Bush thing was natural, that it was staged to be done on that particular day, to take the limelight off of things that were going on in terms of, supposed to go on that day, in terms of Trey Gowdy type inquiries. Okay? Just to bring you up, I mean, we may have a little bit of Q every week, because I'm I don't want to say I'm enthralled by it, but I'm intrigued by it. It's very interesting, and it is global. a lot of the yellow vests that are rioting. And by the way, the French, the French today put up a brick wall outside the gates of government buildings, where the government drives in and out of the buildings. The French walled up the gates with bricks.
Wow!
They had yellow vested bricklayers and people mixing cement and everything, and they were throwing those bricks down and just building a wall, just closing that gate off.
The government was doing that?
No.
The people.
The people were doing that as part of their riot against the French government. They just walled them either in or out. I don't know whether, they didn't care. They bricked up
Those French are
the driving
crazy.
Gates. Well,
they're crazy. Yeah,
there's one thing
they
that they do know how to do, and that's protest.
That's right. And in this case, they have the right to.
They definitely know how to protest. So anyway, I found that kind of comical, And then somebody made the comment that Trump would be over there tomorrow inspecting their work.
Was it true that some of those protesters were shouting, "We want Trump"?
Yep.
That's true, isn't
heard
it?
of that.
Yeah, absolutely, it's true. So it is
Trump is going to change the world, people. I'm sorry, he is. He's setting the stage.
Trump. All right. I agree with you.
Yeah, but
I'm going to tell. Well, no. I want to make sure that credit goes where credit is due.
Sure.
I think Trump represents the changing of the world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna give one man 100% credit.
Gotcha.
But because it's just like he says when he gets up and does some of his speeches, and he talks about all the attacks that are on him, and he says, "Folks, they're not after me; they're after you."
That's right.
And points to the audience and the crowd, and he's absolutely correct.
He is. Yeah.
He's the figurehead of the populist movement that's going on against both parties in power. Mm-hmm. So far, we've been able to keep it under control, unlike the French.
Yes.
But I would say so far.
Yeah.
And I've got cohorts that do exactly what we're doing with the Doc Owen show, who think we're a whole lot closer to civil unrest and civil war than I do. But that's their opinion. They don't live in Texas.
Yeah, right.
They're not quite as isolated as we are. Insulated is a better term. So to the other point of the show, what about you? Where ask yourself, audience member. Thank you for being there. Ask yourself, what about you? Where do you stand? How much information do you have? How much of a true patriot are you? Where are you falling on all of this? It's not remember, we've always it's not about right and left. It's not about Democrat and Republican. It's not about all of the things that they're trying to use to divide us. It's about United States or not. True old time, how we made our brand.
Yeah.
United States or not.
Yeah.
153 million immigrants say they want to come here. Mm-hmm. That want to come here just like they're doing on the southern border.
Yeah.
153 million people around the world want to walk over here and squat.
Mm-hmm. Because they want government to do something for them. Remember JFK, what he said, right?
What did he say?
He said that ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
Right.
Guess who else said that in different words?
I don't know, Mr. Historian.
The man of the night, Warren G. Harding. He said the same exact thing.
But he didn't use the same words?
No, he didn't use the same words. He
Okay.
phrased it in a different way.
Okay.
But he was saying, that you should be doing something for your country
Okay.
rather than waiting for your
Asking-
country to do for you.
And what did he die of?
He died of a heart attack.
Unexpectedly, right?
Yes, however, there are some rumors that his wife poisoned him. She was very domineering. Very domineering.
That's my point.
Yes,
He died young
he died young.
and before his term was up
Exactly.
because he was spouting that nonsensical
There you go.
United States one for all for one crap.
So tonight I should go outside and expect to be shot. Well, I'm not a president, though. Okay, never mind. Go on.
Well, I hope not.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I just...
Nothing personal, but I'm kind of busy. I really don't have time for that over here. I don't want to have to clean up the mess.
Yeah.
Okay, so we digress. So, I mean, that to me, that's the. I mean, I'm following this Q thing, and it's about uniting all of us, and it's about getting us back to the true American patriotism that we were. Mm-hmm. I'm hearing folks like Trey Gowdy say exactly the same thing, and it's all directed at young people who really, really, God bless them. It's that they're. I think if we really force them to instantaneously accept what we're telling them, their heads will explode because of all of the nonsense that's been put in there for the first 18 to 21 years of their lives.
Yeah.
With a few exceptions. There's a few exceptions, obviously, that have either gone their own path or had a strong family or gone to a different school, et cetera, et cetera. But the vast majority of that's the reason Beto, whatever his name is, was so popular and took off like a skyrocket, because all of these relatively uninformed voters believed in his dream with not a clue of what it would do to this country or what it would do to their lives. Mm-hmm. It would destroy this generation. It would. If everything he wanted to do and everything the progressives want to do about opening the borders will destroy this generation that's coming out of college right now. It really would, which means the destruction of the country, because we would have no one to turn it over to. And every day that goes by, I think finding someone to turn it over to gets harder and harder and harder, just like in business. Mm-hmm. We have an aging workforce because the youth don't want to do it. Enough of them do not want to do it. Mm-hmm. And we can only rely on computers to do X amount to fill the gap. Mm-hmm. At some point, somebody's going to, somebody with some ethics, some integrity, and some intelligence is going to have to program those computers. Mm-hmm. So, come on, kids.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Get with it.
Yep.
I mean,
you like liberty?
slap your... Yeah,
and
but they don't know what that means.
Too.
They don't.
They don't know what that means.
I have an idea that
Please.
These people with the open borders mentality, they should practice first at their own home to open up their home. Don't lock it. Don't get no security alarm, no cameras. Just let them in and see how you like it.
Move out of those gated communities that they live in, and
Don't
the bulk
use no
of them
alarms.
do.
Mm-mm.
That's right.
That's right. And let them in, and then that way you really know what an open border feels like. There you go.
Nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
Good job.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't say much, does she? But when she does, it's like E.F. Hutton. Listen.
Yeah.
Front row. Time to go. You have been listening to the Doc Owen Show. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Now go out there this week and take care, pay attention, and God bless.
Bye-bye, folks. God bless.